see last night?
Yeah, a couple guys, Keyshawn on special teams really showed up. And, I mean, when I'm looking at the stuff that we record speed with, he hit 21 miles an hour covering that kick, which he's never hit that kind of speed. And he might have more juice in the tank than that. But, that showed he beat their starting vice. And for his first time, that was good. And, a couple other young guys, I thought they showed up. But overall, the two lines of scrimmages were not good enough.
Next, we'll go to Greg Allman.
Hey, Bruce. I want to ask you about returns. It seemed like both the punt and the kickoff jobs are fairly wide open here in preseason. Just want to ask you, I guess, who's in the mix for you there and how you think that area can improve?
Yeah, I think the major improvement will be blocking when the kicks are short. We didn't do a very good job of setting on our kickoff return guys. We set on them way too late. And, I didn't think Keyshawn really got a shot to get up the field. But I know what he can do. I think Jalen's fine. He's got a ton of tape from college. And, Jaden Mickens he's done it before. So I want to get Scotty Miller some reps on punt return this week, and let's see what he can do.
Bruce, for your offensive line depth, I know Josh Wells was away from the team all this week. Do you expect him back this week?
Yeah, hopefully he's back today, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Next, we'll go to John Ledyard.
Hey, Bruce, I was just wondering, after rewatching the tape, you had mentioned a little bit that Jalen Darden maybe struggling with, he was tracking some of those vertical balls, maybe a little hand fighting. Did you see some coaching points for him to be able to improve his craft?
Yeah, I think young guys, they're not used to getting punched and grabbed as you're going down the field, and just keeping your arms free and running, and don't get into that hand fighting when you're like, it's okay for Mike and Chris because they're bigger and stronger, but when you're smaller guys, don't need to do hand fighting, just use your speed.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go to Joey Knight.
Coach, how cool is it to see somebody like Joe Jones, who's really scratching and clawing to make a roster spot, to put a big six on tape?
I lost you there, Joe.
I was asking about Joe Jones. Just how cool was it to see a guy struggling for a roster spot put a big six on tape?
Yeah, that was great. That was his first one, and the quarterback said he didn't just throw it behind the receiver; he threw it behind Joe. So it was good. It was a good catch, and he's been struggling with that route. So in practice, so it was great to see him show up in the game and jump it and get it.
Thanks.
Next, we'll go to J.C. Allen.
Hey, Coach, you said multiple times, if you're on the back of the roster, guys, you need to show out on special teams. Was there anyone in that area that showed out on special teams that you looked at rewatching the tape?
Some showed up in the wrong direction. Some guys that I was hoping for to see take that next step backwards. Like I said, Keyshawn showed up big time. Tyler Johnson did a good job covering the kickoff. We didn't fill the lane, but he contained it really well. Grant went down there and made a nice tackle on the kickoff. So there were a couple of guys that did good things, and Brooks did some good stuff. But other than that, there were some guys that I was really hoping would take a next step, and they went backwards.
Any guys in particular?
No, it was a group of.
Thank you.
Next, we'll go back to Rick Stroud.
Bruce, just looking forward, you've got these joint practices coming up with Tennessee, and I know you like those, right? You get a different look, and you don't have to worry so much about getting maybe your quarterback or other guys hurt. So how do these work? I mean, do you script that with Vrabel, and what do you like about it? Just being able to guarantee.
Yeah, and you get so much situational work that you might not get in the game. Right. And it's great to go against different people. Especially teams that are physical. I really look forward to, and Mike and I have a great agreement about, neither one of us condone fighting. So there's not going to be any of that kind of crap. It's just, right. Get better, make each other better, have two really good solid days. I think the physicality of those two practices will probably determine whether or not we play anybody in this game, because I don't want them hitting Wednesdays and Thursdays, then go back and hitting again on Saturday. So we'll wait and see on that part. But yeah, I really look for, we get so much done, 2-minute drills and red zone work and all the things that you might not get in a preseason game.
Thanks.
We'll go back to Greg Auman.
Bruce, you talked about some of the special teams guys maybe taking a step back, but you got an opportunity for your backup corners. It seems like it's a fairly deep group out of Miller and Delaney and Hamilton and Kinley and Brooks and Wilcox. Did any of those show you something, surprise you, impress you last night?
Yeah, I hated to see D get his interception taken away, but I thought he played well, and he played well on teams. The rest of them, they've got a ways to go. And thank God we've got 2 more preseason games. They get some of the jitters out and make some corrections and hopefully get better.
Thanks, Bruce.
We'll go to Sarah Walsh.
Hey, Bruce, I'm curious for you as compared to other years, does it feel like you have less hard decisions to make with a roster that's as set as it is, or does that not matter because there's always, at the end, a couple of decisions you have to make here that are tough? I'm just curious for you how difficult that is in a year with everything so set for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, the top 30 to 35, yeah, that's setting. And hopefully we can get through preseason with no injuries in that group. But there's a hell of a lot of competition, not just for those other roster spots, but for practice squad spots. And those guys played up big for us last year, those guys that we elevated off the practice squad and played in huge games down the stretch. So that competition for those 20 to 30 spots is huge.
Next, we'll go to Jenna Lane.
Hey, Coach, I know it was a small sample size of action for your starters on offense from last year, but what are you hoping to see from that group from this game going into this next game, or really this next week of practices? What more do you want to see out of them?
A little more consistency, in the running game especially. We only have 6 plays, and I think Lenny got 1 carry and Rowe got 1 carry. So I just want to see some good work against Tennessee, which is a really good defensive football team. So and offensive football teams, just see us grow this week and make that kind of growth. I don't know if we'll see many of them in this game because of the physicality of those 2 practices.
And on the other side of the ball, you had a number of guys at your inside linebacker position making plays between Joe Jones and KJ Britt. And then, of course, at the top with Levante David. What's going to kind of separate that group of guys in terms of who ultimately sticks around and who doesn't? I mean, I know you mentioned special teams a lot, but, how can those guys in that group separate themselves more?
I'll do a better job of tackling on defense, but again, it's got to come down to special teams. Who are the core special teams guys that are? When you talk about special teams, you're talking about 25 to 30 plays a game that those guys are out there. So they're a huge part of it, and so it's not just defense, but in those instances, it's probably tackling and just a good assignment football, staying in your gap and making it happen.
Thank you.
We have time for a few more. Next, we'll go to John Ledyard.
Bruce, it's not very often that you look at the snap count sheet and you see a defensive tackle leading the way in special team snaps. I'm just curious with Khalil Davis, what did you see from him on special teams? I know he played a lot out there and obviously on defense as well.
Yeah, I mean, Khalil, we know he's a fast twitch guy in the passer game, and he's learning on the run for special teams. It's probably the first time he's played that much special teams. So it looked like a guy that was learning on the run, and hopefully he can get better this week.
Tyler Johnson, it's kind of, if you look at the wide receiver room, it's kind of like, man, does he need to be able to contribute on special teams to get a hat on game days? Is that important for him?
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, it really is. And, we know the one thing Tyler gives us, he gives us another blocking wide receiver. So there's a lot of going into that 6th receiver if he dresses or not.
The last question will come from Jenna Lane.
Hey, Coach, along those same lines on Tyler Johnson, I know that you had said that he needed to get in better shape. What have you seen out of him out of the last few days? Is he getting to that place that you want to see from him in terms of getting in shape?
Oh, yeah, he made his weight this week, and, he did a good job. He's just, had too much fun this summer, but he's done a good job of being very, very consistent. The one thing I like about Tyler is very consistent.
Thank you, Coach.
All right, that's all we have time for. Appreciate you taking the time, Coach.
Thanks, guys.